Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. Now this one's going to be a bit of a strange experiment, to be honest with you. You may remember in previous videos I've been making a few of these seahorses, which I really like the look of. I really like the detail on them. I think they're really cool. And in a previous coaster video that I did, I got a few that didn't quite turn out right. If you look at the thickness on that, you can see the surface wasn't level when I poured it. So I'm going to try an experiment and see if I can use these in this sort of square paperweight mold. And try and create a bit of a, I suppose, a Petri background as well. And see if that gives us a 3D effect, because we'll have the seahorse at the front, the coaster, I suppose, in the middle, and then sort of a Petri effect background. And I'm going to be using the Let's Resin inks. So I've got a few different blues: sapphire blue, cerulean, and the standard blue, as well as a little bit of green, just to create those ocean tones. And then I'm going to use some Sinker white on it as well. So all I've done so far is I've mixed up 6 ounces, because that's what this takes. So it's going to be an expensive mistake if it goes wrong, and I'm hoping it doesn't. Never done this kind of experiment before, but I just wanted to see what it looks like, and mainly if this looks completely transparent and we just keep that wispy effect. But I don't know, to be honest. So I've used the same resin that I used for the coasters, which was this Jiao Chun one, which is quite a thick resin. But if you look, once it's gone through the debubbler, there's no bubbles in it. So hopefully I'll be able to keep that the same. So I don't know how best to do this. As I say, it's my first time experimenting with it, and I just thought it'd be fun to see what happens. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is just pour a thin layer in, enough to sort of cover that base. Not too much, but I want to make sure that the base is fully covered and it all goes into those corners like so. And then I'm conscious of the bubbles that I might get. So even though that's gone through the debubbler, there's virtually no bubbles at the minute. What I am going to do is just go around the edges with my silicone tool and try and get any bubbles that are in the corners, because I would imagine that is where they will want to stick in a mold like this. So I'm just going to go around those corners, try and encourage any of those bubbles up, and if I see any as well. So there is a couple that I can just see there. There's one. Just try and encourage them up to the surface like that. Make sure you keep wiping your silicone tool as well, otherwise you won't be able to use it again. And I'm pretty happy with that for a base layer. Now I'm just going to torch these excess bubbles off. He says there's plenty of gas in there. I'll say it's quite a thick resin, so some of these bubbles, it's just teasing them to the surface, because the last thing I want, if this does work, is bubbles. And again, there's a few there. Just trying to tease them to the top, so that at least this top layer will hopefully be bubble free. There we go. Take your time with this as well. There's no rush. I think this resin I've got about a 40-minute working time with, so I'm okay with that. And as I say, just trying to get rid of as many of those bubbles as possible, because I think by adding things into the resin as well, it's going to create a few more bubbles. Which brings me on to the next point. So all of these fine details in the seahorse are great. Looks wise, I think they look amazing, but I also know that they'll probably trap bubbles. So what I'm going to do is just try and coat it with a very thin layer of resin, just over those areas that I know are going to be problematic, like the eye socket, and over these fine edges before I actually place it into that initial lower layer. Again, I don't know if this is going to work at all. Never tried it before, but I thought it'd be a cool little experiment to see what happens. So I'm just trying to completely coat this in resin. And I am going to probably create a few bubbles by doing this, I realise that. But I just want to try and avoid any bubbles once it's in there. So that is now coated, and hopefully that should be enough of a layer just to prevent any excess bubbles. Now I'm going to position this guy somewhere in the middle and just sort of press him down a little bit, because that's where I want him. And then I'm going to add my next bit of resin. And as I said, I don't know if this is going to work at all. I'm going to try and do it really slowly. And completely cover him. And then I almost want the resin to come up a layer before I add this coaster in. And as you can see, it's starting to move now, and that's because it is actually floating. But I think once I put that coaster on the surface, I just want to make sure that there is going to be a layer of resin that's going to cure in between. Hopefully that won't be an issue, because hopefully the coaster is going to weigh it down. And I can see a few tiny little bubbles there. I'm just going to move him back into where I want him. Him, her, whatever it is, the seahorse. And then try and keep it there. And I can see a couple of bubbles just there, so I'm going to try and get those. And I can just see one just under there as well. So I'm going to try and encourage those out by moving him around, or her, or whatever he is, the seahorse, and try and encourage as many of those bubbles out as possible. That's the main one that I spotted, so that's gone, and that one's now gone. And now I'm going to add this coaster, or coaster-like thing, because I loved the effect that I got on that, and I just think a seahorse coming out of that will look absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to try and position it where I want. I don't mind a bit of an angle here. I actually quite like that. And I want to make sure that there's no gaps. I'm just pressing down, trying to get rid of any ear gaps that might be in there, like that one there. Now that is a huge air pocket there. So again, I'm just going to lift it back up and see if I can get rid of that air bubble. And I don't mind a little bubble, but I don't want many. Especially not one that's going to be that obvious. So again, just maneuvering it around till I've got the shape roughly where I want it. And I think that's about right. And now I'm going to add another layer on top. And as I say, I don't know if this is going to work at all, guys. It's my first time experimenting with this. Let me know in comments if you think it's going to work. But I just thought it might be a really cool little experiment to try. I'm expecting to have a tiny bit of resin left over because of the displacement of the resin. So there we go. That is essentially what we're looking like at the moment. Now I want to see for these clear areas if I can try and get sort of a Petri effect as a background. So I'm just going to do what we always do with Petri and go around there with different colours. So I'm going to start at the base with quite a dark colour, which is the sapphire blue. And I really hope that this works, otherwise it's going to be a waste of 6 ounces of resin, which is not a tiny amount of resin. But again, it's a fun little experiment. Now I'm going to go in with the standard blue. And just try and create some different coloured effects. And then my favourite blue at the minute is this cerulean. So I'm going to add some of that towards the top. and a couple around there. And then, as I say, just mix them around. Maybe another dot of the sapphire. Just up here. And then a couple of dots of green, I think. Just to give it, hopefully, a more natural look. Because in the sea, when you look at it, it's not just blues, it's greens as well. And I think I'm happy with the amount of ink on there. Now what I want to do is just maneuver it and mix it together. So we get almost different coloured effects. A bit like you'd get normally in the ocean, I suppose. And just moving it all around. Again, let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work? Or do you think I've just wasted those pieces and 6 ounces of resin, which is not cheap. So I'm hoping that this works. And now all I'm going to do is go on the back of it with this Sinker White that I've got left. And always make sure you shake it. I don't know if this is going to work at all. I'm not going to do a stir afterwards. Ooh, and we had a bit of excess come out there. But I want to cover the whole back of it. And then just see if it creates any effects. Again, if I get any of the white coming through, it's not an issue because I actually think that will give it a cool effect. And that is the end of that Sinker White bottle. So that's pretty much it now. I'm going to leave that for 24 hours and see what happens. I'm hoping it's going to work out, but with resin you never know until demould. So that's all I can do now apart from leave that 24 hours, hope some of that Petri effect comes through. And in fact what I am going to do is just add another layer on the back and see if that makes any difference. In the texture or the pattern that we get. But I'm liking the look of it from the back. The question will be what happens on the front when we demould, and this is one of those projects that I'm just not gonna know. I've got a tiny bit of resin left over actually, so where's my teddy bear mould? I'm gonna quickly throw that excess resin in here with a couple of dots of ink. Just to see what he turns out like with as well. And then tomorrow, hopefully, that'll mean that I've got 2 different pieces to demould, and hopefully at least one of them is going to be a success. Don't know until we get there, unfortunately. As you can see, I've just put some ink directly in that mould, and I'm just going to pour in some clear resin. And I've still got a tiny bit left over. So I think it probably would have got away with 5 ounces actually. What little mould can I use? Well, I've got a snail here by the side of me, but I think I want something a little bit smaller, to be honest. So again, let's do another seahorse. Just because I've always got that mould handy. So I'm going to do another seahorse as well. I might even get 2. I'm just having a look at how much spare resin. I think I'll be lucky to get the one actually. So again, just going to do 1 seahorse. And again, I'm loving the effect that I get with when I use the spare white from a bloom, doing this. I haven't tried with just clear, so apologies about that, my phone's just gone off whilst recording. And it helps if you actually get it in the mould. And hopefully this should create different sort of levels of colour gradient going through. And I'm just hoping I've got enough spare to fill this mould. And I'm going to try and do it really slowly because you've got to really concentrate with this mould on the nose and the tail. Like that. And I think there should be enough to fill this mould. And you know what? I might get a second. Let's do a second as well. Never waste your resin. There we go. So again, just going to fill that one up. And let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work, or do you think I'm just a little bit crazy? It's going to be one or the other. But again, that's one of the things I love about working with resin. You don't know what'll work, what won't, until you actually go ahead and try it. So it's all about experimentation, all about having a bit of fun and seeing what works and what doesn't. But I'm hoping that they're going to look really cool, actually. Just those colours. And I think that's enough. So we're going to leave these 24 hours, come back tomorrow for the demould and see what we've got. I'm hoping that that coaster inside goes kind of transparent. I'm hoping that the seahorse stands out at the front, and I'm hoping that you get a bit of a Petri effect background, but as I say, I won't know until tomorrow. So don't forget, guys, if you're liking the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference, and we will demold this together tomorrow and see if I've just wasted six ounces of resin or if we get a cool effect. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the demold. Here we go, guys. It is time for demold. So I'm excited for this one, just to see what it's turned out like, really. And I'm hoping that I haven't wasted 6 ounces of resin, but we will see. So I'm going to do this teddy first. And again, come out really cool. Those translucent sort of ocean colours. So really like him. I think he'll make a really cool key ring. And again, it's probably going to be the same with these. Now, when you demold, just make sure you're careful around that tail, because the tail is the part that is likely to snap, if any. And again, that's come out really cool. And just look at the detail you get in that mould. It's amazing, really. And I think it's meant for fondant, but as you can see, works well with resin as well. And I love that translucency coming through it. So that's that one. And again, this one will probably look the same, but we'll demold him anyway. There we go. That one's slightly more green. But I'm thinking with these, I might actually make a lamp by getting lots of these sort of together with a bit of a background, because we know seahorses like to be in at least pairs. And see what they turn out like. But let's get to it, the main event. I'm really hoping this has worked out. I've got some really cool effects on the back, because what I did end up doing was just adding a bit more blue And what that did is it contracted the bit that I'd already done, which was the P-tree bit. So I'm hoping I haven't ruined any effect that I had there, but it looks really cool from the back. So first time demoulding this piece as well, so it'd be interesting. And I just hope it's got some kind of cool effect. Otherwise, I've just wasted a load of resin. But again, that's what this is all about. It's about experimenting so that hopefully we can find some cool results. And there we go. So it demoulded pretty easily, which is good. And the mold is clean, so that's always a good start. So here goes. Let's see what we've got. I love looking at it from the side. Wow. I actually quite like that, you know. I've got the wispiness from the coaster coming through. I've obviously got the seahorse there. We've got a couple of air bubbles. Didn't really get the P-tree coming through massively anywhere, actually, looking at it. It's probably just behind that bit where the P-tree actually worked. But do you know what? As a paperweight or something like that, I quite like that. Yeah, I actually think that has come out really well, and the more I look at it, the more I absolutely love this piece. So just shows you an old coaster that didn't quite work out, a seahorse, some extra resin, bit of colouring on the back, and I think I've come out with a really cool piece there. I absolutely love that, and for me that is resin art. You know, it's got all of those different colours in. Yes, there's the odd bubble, but with this being an ocean theme, I don't mind, because naturally, if you're underwater, you get little bubbles of air. And I just think that has come out so well. I'm actually really, really happy with this piece. And if you can see there, the P-tree did work, but it was all behind the coaster. So it's kind of covered. It's all around that area, which is covered by that coaster. So maybe that's something I'll think about in the next one. But I absolutely love this piece. I think it's my favourite piece I've done to date. So never throw away those bits that haven't quite worked out, because you can put them together in something like this and get an amazing piece. So I hope you've liked the content. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, share it, tell other people about it, because the more we grow, the more of these kind of experiments we can do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.